to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Dick Brody. I am joined alongside my good friend and co-host Nick Barr, and today we are officially kicking off our Bulls preseason series of Meet the Guys. This week we are going over the Chicago Bulls 2021 group of our forwards. Our forwards this year include Patrick Williams, DeMar DeRozan, Alize Johnson, Troy Brown Jr., Stanley Johnson, and Derrick Jones Jr. My personal favorite on that squad. I know everyone's like, why? Because we're about to jump into it. But this is one exciting group that you guys should be excited about too. But before we dive into it, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Stupid Car Tray.
All right, guys, you know the drill. The tray, it works. I never have any more, chips and salsa beverages laying around, or that I got to go get up from the table. No more crumbs on the couch. No one likes them. Girlfriend, mom, even yourself, you're disgusted with yourself after it. So keeps everything in place. If you want to enjoy the Bulls from home, from the road, head to stupidcartrade.com and use code J16. That's JAY16 at checkout, and you will get 16% off. The link will be in the description. And with that, Nick, let's talk some Bulls forwards, baby.
Yeah, you know what? I think that everyone in the world, when I went up to when I went up to Stacey King, sorry, I put foam up in the studio to try to get the echo away, and everything's just been like falling on me. Like
he's playing whack-a-mole with his soundproofing equipment.
Seriously, I wish I recorded myself doing it. And, I told Stacey King about it when I saw him at Fat Rosie's, a couple weeks ago. And he was like, what is that? And then I showed him the whole concept. And he's like, that's pretty darn cool. So if Stacey King thinks it's cool, you should get one too. So 100%. With that, let's jump into player number one, number 44, Patrick Williams, sophomore player out of Florida State. Up there goes the last one on the wall. That was crazy. Sophomore coming out of Florida State, was a sixth man out of Florida State. A lot of people questioned this pick by AK, as it was his first round pick as the Chicago Bulls, head of operations, but pretty good year. He was drafted first round, fourth overall out of Florida State in 2020. His rookie year, he had 9.2 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 1.4 assists. That number is definitely going to go up in this offense. 48.3 field goal percentage and a 39% from 3-point line. Only 20 years old. The Paw is the greatest defensive player on the Bulls. He's not yet, but he will be very, very soon. Nick, what are your thoughts on Patrick Williams, and what was your initial reaction as a diehard Bulls fan when we drafted him?
Yeah, well, I will say, as when we initially drafted him, I think you might agree, I was a little skeptical. And obviously, we knew the upside. We still haven't seen the upside, I think. And we're just hoping. I think this is arguably the player I'm watching the most on the Bulls. I know that's kind of weird. We have all these superstars now. Levine's in his prime, but we kind of know what they're bringing to the table. With Patrick Williams, we haven't seen his upside, and it could be very, very good. So that's why I want to see Patrick Williams, what he will bring, probably more than I want to see anything else on the Bulls this year. So.
Yeah, and overall, Patrick Williams is a great defensive player, is really good at shot blocking, great at stealing the ball. I know we didn't go over those stats exactly, but again, like Nick was saying, has a lot of upside for the Chicago Bulls. So stay tuned for him. I know he's coming off injury pretty soon. Watch out for the Paw. That's all we got to say. He's a freak of nature, and he's only 20 years old. So let's go into topic number two. Player number two, DeMar DeRozan, number 11. Four-time All-Star, 12 years in the league. First forward with the Toronto Raptors, and the last three have been with the San Antonio Spurs. He was a first-round pick, 9th overall in the 2009 NBA draft out of USC. Teammates with Vukovic at USC. He was actually recruited by Vuk. So shout out Vuk for getting the job done there. His career average is 20 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, almost 4 assists per game, 46% career field goal shooting percentage, 28 from the 3-point line. The Bulls required DeMar DeRozan from the San Antonio Spurs in a sign-and-trade deal that Chicago traded away Thaddeus Young, Alfredo Aminu, and a protected first-round pick. And then 2 second-round picks to San Antonio as part of the deal. DeMar DeRozan has on a 3-year, $85 million contract with the Chicago Bulls. Overall, he had a good season last year. Almost 21 and over, a little over 21 and a half points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. So he is really passing around the rock, and he almost shot it 50% last year. DeMar DeRozan is looking pretty darn good this upcoming season. Nick, how excited were you when we first brought in the established veteran, and how is he going to impact this Bulls offense?
Yeah, of course, man. I was pumped. Obviously, I wasn't expecting us to get some blockbuster superstar. This is about as good as a star as you can get, while keeping Levine as your superstar since he has that in him. I was stoked with the move. People are saying he's washed. You're hearing this, you're hearing that. But if you look at him play, man, I mean, he's still doing the same thing that he's been doing his whole career. Those turnaround Jays are still there. And I mean, even seeing him run the floor was kind of cool. He's getting up there in age, but he is he's still got it. I'll say that he's still got it. So obviously having a 4-time NBA All-Star, two-time All NBA player, he's bringing that. He's been there, even if that isn't his state right now. He's been there. He knows what it takes. I think, and I'm telling you what, man, he's loving Lonzo Ball. I know everyone is, but in the press conference, he couldn't speak. He couldn't speak highly of him enough. So seems to love Chicago so far. I'm looking forward to our journey with DeMar.
So I could not agree more. Like when we brought it, like I remember DeMar DeRozan on the Raptors mainly. I know when he went to San Antonio, his hype kind of went under the rug. But DeMar DeRozan's a great player. What a pickup! Replaces Larry Marketing, a player that a lot of Bulls fans were frustrated with for a long time, and he looked good in that first preseason game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ironically, against Larry Marketing. So let's go to our third guy, Alize Johnson. I think I got it. I think I nailed it. Why did I nail it? Because he signed a 2-year contract worth $3.6 million with the Bulls. In my opinion, an absolute steal. A little bit about him. Second round pick, 50th pick in 2018 out of Missouri State. Shout out to the Valley Conference. I saw him play a lot when I went to Illinois State when Missouri State came into town. Oh man, this guy was a wrecking ball on the court. Very good. Not shocked that he made it to the NBA. He first played with the Pacers and then played with the Nets last year. So he's played with successful programs. He came over to Billy Donovan's offense and looking to see him out of there. But last year he had career highs across the entire board, 5.2 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. So this guy loves to get after the ball, make sure he gets his teammates the ball. 58.8 field goal percentage. Pretty darn good in nearly 10 minutes per game. Very excited for this guy. He got more time. Stats got better. Keep it up, young man. Nick, what should people know about Johnson moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing about Alize really, and I'm kind of basing this off of, again, our overreactions from our first preseason game here. But if you notice, he's fighting for a spot here, fighting for a role on the Bulls front court, that is. And like I said, I mean, we really need some interior defensive presence. Vooch isn't going to be able to play all 48 minutes, right? So he's a big player to watch. I think in the preseason, he led the team in boards the first game, 11 rebounds, put up 8 points. I thought a pretty good performance for a guy fighting for a spot. So definitely a player to watch here, especially in the preseason. So.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of Johnsons on this team, I guess. So Nick, who's the next guy we're going to hit on?
Yeah, man. I didn't even realize we were going back to back. So we got the Johnson brothers that aren't actually brothers, but Stanley Johnson. Right. Important caveat that Stanley Johnson. So Stanley, I remember watching him at Arizona. If you guys remember, he was the 8th overall pick in 2015 out of Arizona to the Detroit Pistons, where he spent, most of his early career, and then kind of bounced around a lot recently. So was traded to the Pelicans, then had a real short stint there, then landed to the Raptors, which is then ended up with the Windy City. So recently landed with the Bulls. Awesome defender. I think that's the main reason I've been nailing it. Pretty much every episode that Billy Donovan is a defense first guy. So I think that was I think he loves Stanley Johnson, honestly. Now Stanley's fighting for a spot on the team. I think he's kind of lower on the totem pole here, but he's an awesome defender. He does have some upside. If he can pull down some boards for the Bulls, he could have a role. So recently added to the squad. Let's see how Stanley Johnson fits in. Any thoughts on Stanley here?
I really like Stanley Johnson. I know that he's bounced around, even though he is the former 8th overall pick. He has a lot of NBA experience. This is like every one of those guys, like you're coming to a big city like Chicago, you're around a lot of talent, and you can bounce back your career very easily. And it seems like that's a theme when you come to Chicago. Like, John Lucas III, I like to go back to him. I know he's not a forward, but like He was a no one before he came to Chicago. And then his career, and then after he left Chicago, he got the bag when he went to Toronto. And then he, you know, kind of was a role player moving forward. Same with Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson was a star in New York. And then things got weird when he went to Boston. Guess what he does? Comes to Chicago, bounces back. You know, just guys like that. I could see that happen to Stanley Johnson. That's why I'm really excited about him. Great signing. He is fighting for a roster spot though. But, you know, he could end up on the, you know, the minor league, the Windy City Bulls. The Bulls G League team, and you know that's a lot of fun to go watch. I highly suggest that over in Hoffman Estates. So excited for this guy for sure.
For sure. Yep. And we will see how Stanley pans out. Now moving over to Troy Brown Jr., who I think he's wearing number 7 this year. You guys probably saw him. Had a real strong first half against Cavaliers. He had 13 points on Tuesday night, was fitting in real nicely, was providing, I mean, big 3-point spark. So it'll be interesting to see Troy Brown, someone who we received back in March from the Wizards. Wizards drafted him back in 2018, still pretty young guy. He went to Oregon University with the number 15 overall pick. He was drafted, so relatively high draft pick. Still a guy that we want to see how he pans out. Someone who wasn't really moving the needle much when we first heard his name coming to the Bulls, but now I think he's someone again that we're looking for on the front court as they battle it out for some roster spots.
Yeah, young guy that came over from Washington. I liked the pickup last year. You know, we got rid of a lot of cap when we brought him over. You know, unfortunately, we got rid of Daniel Gafford, who I really like in regards to the Bulls. But Troy Brown Jr., he's got a lot of potential to him. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on him right now. He knows he's got a lot of people that are just like, whatever. He's probably going to end up being a bust. Watch out for him. I think he's for sure on this roster, considering he was on the Bulls roster last year. Billy Donovan likes him a lot, and that's always a good sign.
Absolutely. Poor guy. I mean, he's stuck with the name Troy Brown Jr. It's kind of a forgettable name, but he is not a forgettable dude. I can tell you that much. He actually, I think it was Kobe White and Caruso messing around, because Kobe White and Caruso have really been hitting it off. But I think Caruso's second favorite teammate is Troy Brown Jr. So that kind of surprised me too. But moving on from him, we got Derrick Jones Jr. He is another guy. I know you said, Nick, that you really like. I also am a fan of his upside. I think that's how I would want to put it. He's entering his 6th NBA season. Bulls acquired Jones from the Trailblazers. If you remember, he was on the Trailblazers in the 3-team trade that did end up sending Laurie away. So he's coming off a season with the Blazers, averaging around 7 points a game. He's been playing around 22 minutes. So decent production there. I think everyone, especially Billy, expects and knows that he can bring a little bit more than that to the table. So, and this is an undrafted guy, so a good story. We got to love the undrafted guys. 2016, he only spent 1 season at UNLV, so not a big program. I think he took a risk going undrafted. But he eventually made it to the Sun squad in 2016, and now he has made his way from the Trailblazers over to the Bulls. Now, I think a nice little especially with the Showtime Bulls, right, that we're seeing with Caruso, Lonzo running the floor, helps to have a couple dunk champions too, as we see. It gets the crowd going.
Yeah, man.
So we got the 2020 dunk champion, adding to the likes of our boy Levine, of course, who's a 2-time dunk champion. So now, I mean, we got some slammers, man. And again, I think this guy's just a true Billy Donovan guy. You know, he's a defender first. Great, you know, huge wingspan, 7-foot wingspan, about 6'7". I could see him, and this is somewhat not breaking news, but recent news that he's been cleared. He did have a minor injury, but he's been cleared now. So I'd also be on the lookout for Derrick Jones tomorrow night, see if he's worked in there. Again, with Patrick Williams being out. So look out for Derrick Jones, very athletic. He's wrapping us up on the power forwards, or the forwards, I should say. Nick, what do you think of Derrick?
Oh, I'm pumped. You know, the second you see dunk champion in front of there, and you got Levine on the roster, you got DeMar DeRozan on the roster, you got Alex Caruso on the roster. It's going to be, I jokingly said Lob City 2.0 in regards to these guys. I am so pumped about this forward squad. Going to be really successful, very exciting. Looking forward to them this upcoming season, especially Derrick Jones Jr. I think he's a lock-in on this roster for sure. He's just a good player, athletic player, and that's what the Bulls need.
Agreed, man. I'd like to
Yeah.
see him bringing a spark.
Yeah, me too. And, a great group of forwards for the Chicago Bulls. Absolutely exciting. We're going to have the guards coming up in the next series episode. So stay tuned for that. So Nick, thank you very much for joining me as always on this episode, the Nick and Nick episode. That's, I guess, what we're going to start calling it. Why not? We just started it right now. So I spell mine without a K. He spells it with a K. So I guess that's how you guys will be able to tell the difference. But with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Dick Brody, joined alongside Nick Barr. We'll see you guys next time.